Even Keith Olbermann was saying similar things, comparing Tucker to a Nazi. He also, for good measure, decided to tweet about me because I said Tucker's going to be better off without Fox, and said something to the effect of, "You got fired from Fox and NBC. What would you know about it?" So first of all, you misstate the circumstances of my departure from NBC, sir. That's all I'm allowed to say about it. And as for Fox, there were widely reported facts that I was offered $100 million to stay there. But the record's very clear that I left voluntarily because I wanted to raise my family, something you don't know anything about, because no one would marry you and you have no children. You have a cold, lonely life in which you become a bitter, bitter man, something I wouldn't know anything about because my life is joyful and I've managed to raise my own children. And someday, I hope you have that pleasure, but I don't have high hopes it's going to happen.
That's one of the most vicious things I've ever seen. Joining me now, I love her, Megyn Kelly. She is, of course, a journalist, host of the Megyn Kelly Show, which is on SiriusXM Triumph Channel 111 every weekday at noon. You can find her at youtube.com/Megyn Kelly. Also, probably need to add to that, soon-to-be convicted murderer. Megyn, that was brutal.
Brother Kelly, it's so good to see you. You know, there wasn't a more deserving man in media. Normally, I'm not that mean, Jesse, but he deserves it. He just deserves it. All he does is spew invective. He set me up a couple months ago because one of the few women who ever agreed to date him was a woman who's at MSNBC right now named Katie Tur. And he goes on his show and just absolutely reveals every secret of his relationship with her, any favor he ever did for her. He just has absolutely no class and, as I demonstrated, no connection with the truth.
Megyn, before we get to some Tucker stuff, which you've been breaking down, I actually want to ask you about Olbermann and maybe media in general. You obviously have a wonderful life, but I'm pretty new to this. I've only been doing this for 5 years, and I can't believe how many basket cases there are in this business. I mean, as a child, I watched Keith Olbermann bring me SportsCenter, and I laughed, and my buddies would go around and we'd laugh about the highlights. And now this guy is a nutball who tries to chirp at me all the time. Was he always a nutball? Is it the media industry that turns people into nutballs?
I do think it attracts more than its fair share of nutballs right from the get-go. And then it adds fuel to the fire. Being on camera, getting a big ego, getting a big paycheck. It can be very corrupting if you're not like a strong person with solid values going into it. I mean, I remember I was at Fox back in the days where O'Reilly and Olbermann were warring every week. It was so nasty between the two of them. And I talked to Bill one time and I said, would you ever go to MSNBC? You know, like if Fox didn't do right by you? And he said, sure, I'd go there. And I said, they'd have to fire Olbermann first. And he said, they'd have to set him on fire. That's our industry.